Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. I'm John, the host. You guys are the patrons with the most. Thank you so much for sponsoring, supporting us, taking good care of us as we try and take care of you guys by bringing you information, perspectives, opinions, and thoughts. And I've got to tell you, we have our hands full. I've got kind of a shotgun pattern of information to share with you, but I don't think it's as random as you might think a shotgun pattern would be. We've got this idea in our world, and I remember when it started. Do you remember when extreme sports started? They started using the word extreme, and then they would show people doing things that everyone can do as if that was extreme. Jumping off of a swing. Oh, that's amazing. You did a flip. Whoa, and parkour and others, what we used to just call recreational activity became a sport, like skiing. And then it became an extreme sport. Everything is extreme, 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 right? And it was fun to be extreme. Now, everything it's incredible. We'll get into the stories and then we'll talk about the difference between what is normal and what is extreme, what's to be expected and unexpected. So, where to start? When I was a kid, when I was a boy, the threat we faced in the world was nuclear annihilation. That was the extermination of all life on the planet. Every single cell, every molecule was going to be completely incinerated with nuclear hellfire, right? That's what we were promised if the Soviets and the U.S. went to war. And, it wakes you up to the idea, that's not good. Who wants that, right? But I was more afraid of getting my ass kicked by bullies every day than I was of nuclear war, because that's what was in my face. That's what was presented to me on a daily basis. We talked about nuclear war from time to time and thought about it, but the day-to-day activities of life, that was reality. The extreme nature of nuclear war was one thing, right? It was in your mind. It was a phantasm. It didn't happen, thankfully, right? But it was always possible. So we've got some cases here I want to talk about. I've got a Zero Hedge article. You've stolen my childhood. 16-year-old girl throws a tearful climate tantrum at the UN. Now, it's important to know that this is a 16-year-old girl from Sweden. And she says, I shouldn't be here. She unleashed right on the UN. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean, yet you all come to us for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. Wait a minute. Empty words stole her childhood? See, these are the words of an infant, a child, someone with zero experience in life, zero knowledge. As children, we all only had the knowledge that others gave to us and limited experience. This is a disgusting display of political pandering on the part of climate change activists. In fact, they call this girl, 16-year-old, an activist. Now, she comes to America with a bad attitude, nasty facial expressions, and she, as a 16-year-old child, is going to criticize the world, and we're supposed to care and change? Talk about extreme. When I was a kid, I was allowed to talk. I had opinions and ideas. But children were seen and not heard. In other words, I didn't get to go up to my parents and say, I believe this, and so from now on, this is the way it is. This girl throws a tantrum, and the world is going to change? Now, I expect her to go away and just, STFU. Just get the hell out of here, right? She is Swedish. She's not American. How did she afford to come across the ocean that she talks about crossing? How could she afford that? There's a lot of prosperity there, apparently. How did she get here? By plane? Carbon footprint? By boat? Carbon footprint? Did she walk? Carbon footprint? It's a waste of her energy. She could have done a video presentation and sent it electronically, far cheaper than what she had to spend to get here. Talk about an extremist. To have a couple of minutes of tantrum time in front of the UN, we had to waste that much energy? Once again, extremist hypocrite. But this is where we're at in the world. This is the extremism we're facing. It is no longer, look at my stunt, or look at this activity. Extremism has gone off the hook. You know, we're divided. You and me are over here, and we're just trying to hold our ground, right? I'm not going to extremes. I'm just right here talking, and talking is not extreme, right? I'm talking to you guys. This little brat, and she is a brat, is talking to the United Nations. That's taking a child's opinion. What about all the kids out there who love the world they have? This little girl looks nice and healthy. She's got money to fly or travel around the world. What right does she have to complain? She should be complaining about the excesses of her life. She's got chubby little cheeks. Means she's eating too much. Right? It's crazy. So Trump responds. Now this is a Yahoo News story. So Trump posts sarcastic response to Greta Thunberg's tearful climate change speech. Her behavior, the little girl, the brat, is sarcastic. It is unnecessary, and why should anyone listen to her? She only is speaking things that were put in her mouth by others. If she's a 16-year-old activist, who activated her? Good questions to ask. President Trump writes in a tweet, "She seems like a very happy young girl looking forward to a bright and wonderful future. So nice to see." Yeah, there's a little sarcasm there. And it's definitely needed. Trump spoke in front of the UN and said some powerful things as well. But he is somebody with experience as an adult, as someone older than the age 16. Do you think anyone would care what Donald J. Trump said when he was 16? When Donald J. Trump was 16, even with all the wealth his dad had, was he invited to the UN to give a tearful speech about something that scared him or stole his childhood? No. But this is the world we have, where you have to give voice and then listen to, and then give a shit, and then take action to support kids. No. I mean, this is why we have the problems we have. This is part of it. This Greta girl is a brainwashed Nimrod. What does she really know? Does she study the climate change data? Has she seen all the false and misleading data and misquoted data? Now, there's a difference between climate change and nuclear annihilation. The incineration of the entire planet by nuclear war. There's a difference between that and climate change. If she thinks her childhood was stolen, what happened to mine? Right? I lived it because I didn't live in this ideological bubble. This little girl needs to go away, is what she needs, and she will. And she'll be forgotten soon enough. She will. It's very aggravating. It's frustrating to see this level of where we're at. You know, it really is incredibly frustrating because the left has gone so far to the left, so loony, but the press, the media is giving it, it's not that they're giving it the attention, it's that they're giving it credibility. I'd give this girl 0 on the credibility scale. But what else gets credibility? All of the social movements that are endearing to socialists, they're getting credibility. And they're radically extreme, but they're being portrayed as if this should be mainstream thought. Should be mainstream thought. You know, something that needs to be given press time over a little girl is what is going on in China with their food. Now, they waived some tariff issues so that Chinese business can buy soybeans from the United States. They are in desperate need of food over there. And they're waiving their tariffs, which were supposed to be an economic punishment. That's pretty extreme, right? We're going to punish you. But then they realize we're in big trouble with our food system over here in China. So they're dropping the tariff. They're buying U.S. soybeans, at least enough to get them by. So all of this grandstanding economically is extreme behavior. All of these saber-rattling threats, extremist speech, just like this little girl is an extremist. But she's one little girl who had her dreams stolen. She should be in school across the ocean. So if school is more important to her and should be, why doesn't she just let someone else do this speech? Why doesn't she send it electronically and go back to school? It's political posturing. It's extremist pandering to the left. But China, they're having food issues. They're having extreme food issues. And they're having inflationary problems as well. So by reducing the tariff, that reduces the price of the food a little bit to help their people out. And it's not one little girl in China. It's all the Chinese girls and all the Chinese boys and all the Chinese men and all the Chinese women. That's right, 2 genders over in China. And they are in big, real trouble. They're just not being threatened with losing their childhood dreams. They're being threatened with being hungry and losing their entire economic base. See, there's fabricated propaganda, and then there's real problems. You know, back when we were under threat of nuclear incineration, the United States used to sell wheat to Russia, the Soviet Union. They were our supposed major enemies, yet we sent them food. Why? Because they would have occasional bad harvests and they needed help, and we actually gave a shit about them. We actually cared about them, and we helped them as people. It wasn't for political pandering purposes. This wasn't announced on the news and said, see, look how shitty Russia is and how magnanimous the American people are. But this little girl and their activists' mentality are so extreme that they don't care that they're pandering. They don't care that it is a complete frivolous argument on the part of this little girl to be there. It is beyond frivolous. It is obscene in its frivolity. This little girl needs to go home and shut up the rest of her life. But she's going to continue to be an activist, an extremist. Remember, extreme used to be cool, extreme sports. Now it's extreme ideology. Everything is extreme. Now, I want to give an example of how this extremeness has really gotten out of hand. Right? Everyone wants to be extreme. Everyone wants to step out in front and kick some ass. Well, here's another Yahoo News story. Man sprays smoker in face with fire extinguisher to put out cigarette. Quote, you can't smoke around here. This was in Utah. Utah. And a man was standing outside of a business. It was a restaurant, and he was smoking a cigarette. The smoker, his name was John Bird. He told the owner the owner of the restaurant, the restaurant owner sprayed the man. He told him you can't smoke here. And the guy, this is how they write the story. Even the media is extremist, right? He defiantly took a drag on his cigarette. Why not a puff of the cigarette? Why not these are my rights. I believe I am correct. Now, if this guy was smoking, what would have been the appropriate course of action? You can ignore him. You can call the police, file a complaint. Hey, there's a man smoking outside my business. It's against the rules. Or do you go get a fire extinguisher, threaten the guy with it, and then spray him in the face with chemicals? Right? So, John Bird, the smoker, defiantly took another drag, and Mr. Jameson lifts the device and fires a jet of white powder straight into Mr. Bird's face. Now, Mr. Bird was volunteering at a nearby arts festival. Just having a smoke. But rather than leaving the guy alone or calling the police and saying, hey, come and write this guy a citation, he assaults him by hitting him in the face. Just because you spray something doesn't make it illegal. In fact, this could be an assault fire extinguisher. It's red, it looks dangerous. He points it, it fires projectiles. Billions of little teeny smoke smothering BBs shot him in the face. Now, if he shot him in the face with a gun, wouldn't that be assault, attempted murder? Well, he fired chemicals in his face. This guy could end up with cancer 10 years from now. Who knows? Other health problems, vision problems, breathing problems. This was a serious case of assault, if not attempted murder. But this Mr. Jameson is an extremist. He believes that smoking is so bad that he has the right to physically assault somebody. Right? Assault. So this child is allowed to speak, and in fact does everything contrary to what she says we should be doing, which is less travel, less waste, less frivolity, right? And this guy, right? You shouldn't smoke, but instead he sprays. And if this is outside of a restaurant, he sprays a chemical all over the place that his patrons are going to track around with their feet. It could have blown back onto people's food. But see, he doesn't care. He's an extremist. He's making a stand. He's getting some stuff done. This is the mentality we're facing. And I've got one more extremist thing here. One more extremist thing. The Department of Defense threatens to kill people who want to run on to Area 51. Now, I've got to tell you, this is not about millennials, even though the story talks about it being about millennials. I had this idea years and years ago. In fact, I think I may have even said something about it in a video. You know, what are they going to do? Kill us all? Are they going to mass murder a bunch of people? Well, guess what? The Department of Defense has threatened this group. They wrote the last thing hashtag millennials will see if they attempt the hashtag Area 51 raid. And they sent and posted a picture of a B-1 bomber and the Air Force, I guess that's the Air Force, standing in front of it. Yeah, we're going to come and kill all you people. It's another example of extremist mentality out there. Now, the Area 51 people, if they try going onto the base, I'm sure they'll be stopped and arrested, and they should. They're violating the rules. But again, this extremist mentality, even the government wants to be extreme, and they took it down and apologized and said it was inappropriate. But if I had threatened to kill a person or a government official, guess where I would be? Locked up. If I did a veiled threat and took a picture of a gun, right? They have a picture of a stealth bomber, which drops stealth bombs, which stealthily kill people in a very loud and gruesome fashion. That is a death threat, as much as if I took a picture of a gun and said, the last thing you'll see if you do this and that and yada, 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 right? But for them, it's just inappropriate. They're sorry. They took it down. They should have their account closed. They're extremists, though. And this is where we're at. We're extremist, right? The real problems we have, food, politics, and not silly political questions, but real ones like fiscal spending. Real problems like our economy. How solid are our jobs and our income? Can we afford to continue to live? Is our standard of living going to increase or decrease? And as far as this little stupid girl is concerned, climate change, since the 80s, back when I was going to have my world incinerated, we have taken incredible strides to clean up the air, reduce pollution. They took lead out of fuel. We have energy-saving devices everywhere. People are very energy conscious. We're spending more and more money on this electric vehicle creation and development to try and save the environment. And this little twit has the temerity to come over and lecture adults. This isn't kindergarten. This isn't Barney land, the land of make-believe. This is real life, and unfortunately, all of us are alive. There's businesses, there's roads, there's infrastructure. Life has to be supported. Where does this little twit think her food comes from that have given her little rosy, chubby cheeks? It comes from areas where they have to farm industrially, and they're doing it more efficiently. And yeah, we have problems with the planet, with pollution, and it needs to be fixed, and it is being addressed. But see, extremism trumps it all. Right? Extremism by the individual, right? Extremism by groups. This is why I say, we need to be prepared. Because, yeah, we have real food shortages. Extremism, yeah, these leftist lunatics will yell at your face while being hypocrites and tell you you're wrong and bad. And you're supposed to believe it. Even if they're children, they know better than you as an adult. And if someone tells you to do something, you have to do it. Right? This guy spraying a guy in the face, you bet. Oh, it's totally justified. Cigarettes are evil. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that pays an incredible amount of tax. I tell you what, I don't like cigarettes. I like cigars. I like cigars a lot. I've seriously cut down on them because, right, my health matters. But, right, they believe that they can do that. Well, go ahead and kill the tobacco industry. See if I care. The cigarette tobacco industry. But see if the government likes the fact that they're losing all that tax revenue. Right? But the fact that someone can take extreme action to support their extreme political position. Now imagine if the rule was no spitting on the sidewalk, which I think is a rule. And a guy spit and then someone hit him over the head with a bat. It's the same move. It is a life-threatening assault over a matter that in truth is trivial. But this is what we're seeing. This is why we need to be prepared, because people, individuals, are taking more extreme action and they think they're right. And they'll take that action at the expense of everyone else's comfort, safety, or their beliefs. And even governments are willing to make and take extreme action against people that they think that they don't agree with, right? I think Area 51 should be open to the public. I don't think there's any secrets there that they need to keep from us. At this point of the game, especially with how technology is now changing to drone technology, right? Oh, well, they do drones at Area 51, John. We don't want to let that stuff out. Yeah, well, guess what? It's our country. Wouldn't it be nice to know what's going on? I know that's a strange argument. But for the government to threaten to kill people because they're interested, starting to sound rather draconian, yes? Starting to sound very extremist, like communist Soviet Union that killed, 25 to 40 million people? They killed so many people they don't even know how many people they killed. Hitler killed people he didn't agree with. Government says, oh yeah, we don't agree with you and what you want, so we're going to bomb you. Trust me, they think like this. We had that protester in Florida, and this is 10 years ago, decade ago. She was protesting. She was an attorney. She was in the street. She was wearing a dress. She wasn't wearing a sign that says, fuck you cops. They shot her in the head with a BB, one of the crowd control BBs. And the police were caught on film calling people cockroaches. That's government mentality. Now, while I don't agree with protesting and protesters in general, I think it's kind of a waste of time. I recognize that it's their right and it should be upheld. But the attitude, the mentality of the police that people are cockroaches, the mentality of this military unit, Department of Defense, someone there, their attitude was, fuck you, we'll just kill you. On the street, the attitude, if they don't believe you, is, fuck you, I'll spray you in the face with chemicals. And this little girl says, fuck you, I'm going to waste a bunch of energy to come here and tell you how wrong you are, because I know, because I'm a 16-year-old little girl that's been indoctrinated in school in Sweden. Now, I have Swedish heritage, if you didn't know, and I'm ashamed of what the Swedes have become. Not because they're white or European but because they become socialist to such a ridiculous degree that they become self-destructive. If I sat here and talked to you and cut my fingers off with a pair of pliers while I talked to you, wouldn't you say, John, why are you being so self-destructive? That's what the Swedes are doing. They're becoming self-destructive. They're socialists, and that's what this does. Socialists are extremists. The government is becoming more extremist, and we need to get it under control. Hopefully we can. Until we do, up and until that time, we have to be preppers. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. We need these things. And some people say, you preppers are extremists. Well, if the left is this extreme, shouldn't we be a little extremist too and get prepared for what we know is coming? Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Like, share, subscribe, contribute on Patreon. Everything you guys do helps. Thank you very, very much. And be sure and binge watch videos. Let that computer roll. It is helping. On the back end, the numbers are showing it. The numbers are showing it. So, yeah. Keep your cat entertained and leave prepared mind videos play all day while you go to work. Plus, it'll be a good theft deterrent. Someone will think someone's in the house because they keep hearing me screaming and yelling and ranting and raving in my extremist fashion. It'll keep people from breaking into your house. I guarantee it. If it doesn't work, I'm sure that little girl from Sweden will go to the UN and speak on your behalf. Chance favors the prepared mind, right? Semper Fi, Godspeed.